Hello and welcome to Blessings by Dee. Today we are going to be talking about women of God, how to be a woman of God. So there are some verses in the Bible that we'll be covering that give us some ideas about what kinds of things, what kind of character a woman of God will have. If you haven't already, check out my other video talking about men of God and what a man of God should be like. So there are verses in the Bible talking about both. So the number one thing is, of course, a woman of God should have the fruits of the Spirit. So both godly women and men should have the fruits of the Spirit. That's the first thing that you should be looking at. Now, a lot of these things will seem to overlap. We are actually beings of God. So that's the thing. We should actually share a lot of the same characteristics and we need to be matching each other. If both genders are aiming to be Christ-like, it is going to be quite similar. The only difference is the femininity and the masculinity and the roles within the household and what that looks like essentially. So those will be the differences. So let's talk about the fruits of the Spirit. So number one, of course, she needs to be loving. So this woman is going to be loving, caring, nurturing, and you will feel that feminine energy from her and that loving, caring energy. The next one is that she is going to be quite joyful. You will feel her radiating joy. Now, of course, life is ups and downs and there are always going to be challenges, but she is going to have long suffering and she will be able to handle these challenges. She's not going to be too emotional. She's going to be quite resilient in these challenges and still find the joy in life, because we are supposed to rejoice in our tribulations. So she will actually still be quite a joyful, bright person. So she may not always live up to that. No one is ever going to be joyful every day. But a woman of God cannot hide under the bracket of saying that women are emotional beings and I have a right to be like this because I have these kinds of hormones. No, a woman of God should be able to be joyful no matter what situation she's in, whether she's rich or whether she's poor, whether she's got heaps of problems or not. This woman needs to be good to be around. She needs to be joyful. When she is around, there needs to be kind of like a breath of fresh air. And so there will be good days and there will be bad days. But if there are no good days, that's a red flag. The next thing is that she needs to be peaceful. You need to experience peace around her. Now, if you're not experiencing peace, then that's a problem. Why am I talking about this like it's dating? Why do I automatically... When I was talking about the man of God video, I was talking to women. And now that I'm talking about women of God, it's like I'm talking to the men. I don't know what's going on. But basically, so a woman of God will be peaceful. She'll be peaceful to be around. If a woman of God is not peaceful to be around, that's also problematic. We are supposed to have the Spirit of God, and the Spirit of God will radiate peace. So the next thing is that she is going to be very patient. A woman of God is very patient in life, very long suffering, able to endure a lot of hardness like a good soldier in Christ. We are all members of the body and we all struggle, and this woman will be patient and she will know to wait on God and she will know to wait on her man. The next thing is that she is going to be kind. A woman of God should be kind and not bitter and not rude or anything like that. She will be kind in her heart. The next one is that she is going to be faithful. So she will be faithful in her life with everything that she's going through. She'll be faithful towards God. She'll be faithful in the things that she does. And of course, she will be faithful to her man. The next thing is that she will be gentle. She will have a very gentle nature. And you can see this by the way that she carries herself. She will carry herself with gentleness and she will treat you with gentleness. The next thing is that she will have self-control. So this can be in a variety of different ways. She'll have self-control when it comes to sin, and she'll also have self-control in her lifestyle and in her habits. So that's maybe waking up early, going to the gym, eating right, self-control with her hormones. If she has a bit of a temper, she will learn to fight that, try to take control over that, have some self-control, and be faithful and relying on God to help her with that as well. So those were the fruits of the Spirit, and so you know them by their fruits. So a good indicator of whether she's a woman of God is if she has those fruits. The next thing is that she's going to be spiritually sound. How is her spiritual life? The woman of God will be living a life of prayer, reading her Bible, and devoting her life to Christ. So, and she will also know how to live a life with Christ. Women seem to pick this up much quicker and simpler in life, how to rely on God and all the spiritual things. She'll be very quick to ask God for confirmations and things like that, and she'll be living that kind of lifestyle of relying on God to answer her questions, whether she's asking for help with something or whether she's asking for advice. She will be relying on God, and you'll see that she's spiritually sound in that, but also doctrine. She cares about the doctrine of the Bible, and she cares to look into it. She cares to be more knowledgeable in the Bible and follow the Bible in all spirit and truth. Now, the next thing is that she is going to be, of course, God-fearing, and she will be receiving convictions from God, and she will be walking that life of God and putting God first, putting the kingdom first and his righteousness. And the next thing is she is going to be virtuous. Now, this is actually a thing that I left out for man of God, but a man of God should actually also be virtuous. But there is a clear verse that specifically a woman will be virtuous. So a woman is virtuous. She's also strong. So this is something that not many people talk about, but a woman has to be strong as well. You would think that it's only the men who are strong, but no, a woman of God girds herself with strength and strengthens her arms. So this can be spiritually, mentally, physically. So when it comes to fighting the battles spiritually, she's like a good soldier in Christ, and she's a prayer warrior. When it comes to mental struggles, she fights those mental struggles with positivity. She takes her thoughts captive. And lastly, physically, so maybe she's going to the gym, she's getting fit, she's becoming physically strong, because while a woman may submit to a man and his strength, and men seem to do more for the woman and help her out, a woman of God is not going to be useless and completely weak. She is also going to try her best to be self-sufficient and independent, because if she is in a situation where she has to fight for herself, she is able to. So a woman of God will be strong. The next thing is that a woman of God will carry herself in dignity. She will have dignity in life, whether that comes to relationships or in her workplace. No matter what it is in life, she will uphold her dignity. So next, she's not only going to be pursuing godliness, she is going to be professing godliness. So a woman of God will be professing godliness. The next thing is that she is going to be quite pure as well. A woman of God will represent purity, and she will have a pure heart. The next thing is that she is actually going to be a worker. She's going to be a worker in the field, or maybe she'll have her own business. But actually, women of God are called to work. So even though her man might be a provider, it's not good to be idle. So this woman will do something on the side. So even if she is the type of woman who is blessed enough to have a man provide for her, she will still be doing stuff on the side. So she might have her own little business, whether it's a very small business or whether she can take on a bigger load and she has that drive and ambition to do more with her life. She is doing her part in society and contributing her part, and she is working with her hands. And so that's also good in the eyes of God, and she's doing good works as well. So maybe she's got her own ministry or helping in ministry. She is doing good works. Another reason why it's actually a good idea for a woman to work, because even though women can try their best to find a good man, the divorce rates are quite high, and a lot of men can get corrupted in this world that we live in, especially now it's coming to the last days. It is very challenging to find a good man. So a woman of God will be a good worker so that she doesn't have to rely on a man. She will have her own money in case of a rainy day. In case she might experience financial abuse or physical abuse, she can get up and leave, because at any moment, you never know what can happen. You can meet the most loving man, the sweetest man, someone who seems to have the most perfect character, but later on he might switch up on you. And that is real. A lot of women will say that won't happen to them, that she picked well, that she saw through him, that he is a really good man. That'll never happen to her. She doesn't need to worry about that. A lot of the times it actually does happen. If you look at domestic violence rates, the prevalence is extremely high. A lot of women who I've counseled in the past have experienced this, and they've mentioned that they did not think it was going to happen to them. They were very comfortable, and then all of a sudden it got really bad, and they never thought they'd be in that situation. So definitely be diligent to have your own bank account, your own money in case of a rainy day. Best case scenario, you never have to use it. But just in case things do go south, you have that safety net. So this is also another thing that I forgot to mention in my other video, but both the woman of God and the man of God are going to be humble, and they're going to be very giving and generous. So both of them, because these are instructions for children of God in general, to be humble, giving and generous, being cheerful givers basically. So they will be giving in their relationship, giving to each other, giving to their family, providing for their families, and providing for the less fortunate and the needy. Because when you lend to the poor, you are lending to the Lord. So that's another part of good works. You are supposed to be generous. And the other thing is that God resists the proud and gives grace to the humble. So it's really important for both a man of God and a woman of God to be humble. I really wish I spoke on that in the man of God video and went really into that, because a lot of men seem to struggle with pride. And I know that it's increasing in women as well, but men specifically seem to struggle with pride in that leadership role that they take on. And that's the thing, God resists the proud and gives grace to the humble. So you don't want a man of God who is proud. A woman of God will also be modest. So she'll be modest in the way that she carries herself and also the way that she dresses. So she will try her best to dress in a way that is still classy, that is still fashionable, but also in a way that covers herself. A woman of God will dress intentionally and not be seeking attention. So she will dress for herself to look good. So even if a woman of God is into fashion, she still needs to be mindful of the fact that a lot of men seem to have perversion and lust. And so women of God need to be aware of that. Women like to think that it's not necessarily how they dress, it's the men's behavior. So women tend to think that it's okay to dress however they like. It's the men who have the problem. It's the men who need to watch how they're looking and, control their perversion and their lust. But the reality is that you're part of the problem if you are dressing immodestly. You can't always help what you wear. Sometimes you're going to fall short, especially nowadays. Sometimes it's difficult to even find these types of clothes, because if you go online, all you see is parts of clothing missing. So if you want to be fashionable, you still want to look nice without wearing just a boxy t-shirt. It's very difficult to find this kind of clothing for women. Genuinely, it is difficult. So what I would recommend for women is to just really be intentional with how they're dressing. If, for example, you do have something that is low cut or that is exposing certain areas that you want covered, throw something over the top. So wear a cardigan, wear a jacket, wear a denim jacket, for example. In the summer months, you can throw on a denim jacket, and a denim jacket actually keeps you cool. So you would think that you can't wear a jacket in summer, but actually there are certain materials like cotton, linen that you can throw. You can throw on a linen wrap over you. You can throw on a denim jacket, and you'll still be kept relatively cool, and you'll actually be covering yourself and protecting yourself from the sun. So that's what I would recommend in those hotter months, to just bring a cover up as well. And so things aren't always going to be perfect. You may make mistakes. You might, if you're wearing a tank top and someone can see that, it's just, sometimes you just have that kind of body shape where it's really hard to dress nicely without being objectified. But if you're being intentional about it and people are still objectifying you, it's not you, it's them. It becomes their problem. But realistically speaking, you can do your best to make sure that you're not wearing the extremely inappropriate outfits, going extremely out there. I think that's the main thing. I mean, it's all about what you compare yourself to, because nowadays you could try to dress more like a nun, and you can wear the boxy t-shirts and you can go down that route. But if we're being realistic, we're just looking at what young women are wearing nowadays. They're wearing really skimpy clothing nowadays, extremely short, extremely low cut, extremely tight. They're pretty much wearing like a tiny tank top that barely covers their chest with no bra. And so when women are wearing things like that, I would say that that's extremely inappropriate. There are women who love fashion and they like to look nice. They like to show their figure in a classy way. They seem to be the ones who get the most hate, which is quite interesting, because I would say to put your focus more on the women who aren't even trying to be modest. But the ones in the middle, they're trying their best. They want to be fashionable, but it is difficult. You're walking that fine line, and you just you just let God convict you on that. We also shouldn't be bashing women on this, because women like to look nice. It's not only for men, but women like to look nice just for themselves. They want to feel good in their bodies. They want to be confident, and they want to be beautiful. There's nothing wrong with being beautiful. There's nothing wrong with looking good. And there's also nothing wrong with dressing classy. So we should definitely not be bashing women on this. They're doing their best. Let God convict them. You can mention something to them, especially if they're extremely inappropriate and they're not getting the message. But if you can see that someone is already in their journey of being more modest and they're doing their best, you can give them tips and advice. But sometimes that rebuke is really harsh on them, and it can actually pull them away from living a modest, pure life, because they think, oh, how am I supposed to be this perfect? How am I supposed to be this godly? It's asking too much of me. There's too much pressure on me. I can't do it. And they fall back into their past ways of dressing inappropriately. So if you can see that someone is on their journey and they're growing in this, and God is convicting them slowly and being really careful and gentle with them, try not to ruin that for that person, because they're doing their best. But yeah, take it up with God. Whenever you're rebuking someone about anything, take it up with God first, and watch how you rebuke that person on what they're doing. So definitely modesty is a difficult thing in today's society. A lot of women aren't modest. A lot of women, when they come to Christ, they do their best with that. With an hourglass figure, it's very easy to look like you're dressed inappropriately just because of your figure. So two people can wear the same outfit and it will look different on each of them. On one person, because she has the cleavage and the round shapes and everything like that, it'll look a certain way, as opposed to someone who is a very petite figure. It'll look completely different. So a lot of the curvy women might get rebuked on this a little bit more, just for the sake of being curvy and looking a little bit different in the clothing that they wear. So women with an hourglass figure usually have to spend a little bit more time in their wardrobe to carefully pick out what actually will work for them, that's not going to expose too much of themselves. It says to not wear clothing that is very expensive. There is actual vanity and especially in people's heart posture of trying to look expensive or spending abnormal amounts of money on purses and designer clothing and stuff like that. That is obviously wrong. So as long as you have a good heart posture and you are budgeting for your clothing, you're not spending too much on clothing, and you just have a few classy outfits, you shop the sales and you don't give into consumerism, that's a really good thing. And not putting too much value in how you're dressed. So even if you aren't dressed amazing, not putting your worth into how you look or how you dress, because as we know that it's what's inside that really counts, not how we are adorned or how we dress. And how we look and how we dress is definitely not the most important thing. It's our heart posture, it's our character and everything like that. So don't put too much emphasis on that, but of course there's nothing wrong with looking nice. When you actually are put together, it can actually help build your character, because you have that etiquette, you have that politeness, you have that confidence in yourself. And when you are confident, you are actually a better person to be around, because if you do have low self-esteem and if you aren't putting an effort into the way you look, you can actually end up being slothful. You don't want to end up being slothful because you're not putting an effort into yourself. So put some effort into the way you look. You don't have to go all out, but as long as you put some effort in. The thing is, beauty does exist, and God created beauty. We are supposed to be attractive, so both men and women need to put an effort into themselves to be more attractive. And that could be physical fitness and diet, and it can also be how you dress. So obviously it's not a problem to dress nicely, it's just your heart posture around it. Are you feeling pride because you're wearing a very expensive clothing? Are you spending all your money on clothing and not even being generous to the poor? Is that where your money and your attention is going? Because wherever you put your attention, that's what you actually idolize. So are you idolizing what you look like? Are you idolizing these clothing? Just make sure it's something that you consider. So modesty is your character and your intentions behind it, your heart posture behind how you're dressing. So are you purposely trying to show off your body, or are you trying your best to cover yourself and dress classy? Basically putting some effort into your visual appearance, but not putting too much effort into your visual appearance. So modesty will be the way you carry yourself, your character, your heart posture, and the way you dress. So that's kind of what it means by modesty. And lastly, of course, with being spiritually sound, a woman of God will be wise, have good understanding, and will be intelligent. That's another really important thing, because I think a lot of women tend to put a lot of focus on their appearance. They don't work on their wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And God gives us these things. But the thing is, the more you rely on God, the more He will give you these attributes. Even though a man is a head, a woman's input matters. A man can't handle everything. He usually does take the counsel of his woman. There is that quote that says that the man is the head and the woman is the neck. So that can mean that the neck supports the head physically, spiritually, mentally, intellectually, all these different things. The neck supports the head, but also where the neck turns, the head will go, because a lot of the times the man does care a lot about what the woman puts her attention to. So you have to be really careful, women, of where you're putting your attention, because where you're turning, the head will turn too. So if you're looking at all of these things, the man will end up looking at all of those things. So you have to direct his attention in the right way so that he can make the right decisions for the family. So if you value having good security and privacy and a good stable home, you need to be directing your man that way. Because if you're looking into materialistic things or vain things, you'll be turning his head that way and tempting him, kind of being like Eve, essentially. How she ended up turning Adam's attention to the apple. Eve was able to influence Adam, so the neck is influencing the head. So you have to be really careful. You need to be intelligent, wise, and understanding. You need to direct the head in the right way. And so there is some responsibility there. A lot of the times women don't mention this, and because a lot of men, it triggers their pride knowing that the woman is a little bit in control of the situation, because the head thinks that he's in control, whereas the woman secretly is in control sometimes. You may not necessarily be taking charge and taking initiative of everything. Maybe it's the man of God doing that. But you can direct him and give him some advice, give him some tips, give him your thoughts and opinions, and he should be listening to those thoughts and opinions that you have. He should be caring about those things, because when you are one flesh, you're in it together. So you should care about each other's thoughts and feelings on something, and you should come to decisions together. And he will just be the one to make everything happen, and he will be the one to make the ultimate decision, because he may have more knowledge and understanding in that situation. He may know a little bit more about that. So a woman will have her own wisdom and her own knowledge, and that's the best way that she can be a helper to her husband and also to herself, because at the same time, you also need to be self-sufficient as a woman of God. So definitely take them into consideration, pray to God about it, and be the best version that you can be. So basically, that was a big summary of what a woman of God should look like. Those are the fruits to look out for. So a woman of God, if you're looking for a friend, that's what your friend should look like. That's what you should be like as a woman of God. You must examine yourself and really see, are you doing these things? Is that what your life looks like? And is that what your character is like? Are those your values? That's basically what a godly woman should be. And men of God, if you're looking for a godly woman, be very careful to look for those characteristics and those virtues. It's very easy to be manipulated by more worldly women and people who wolves in sheep's clothing and everything like that. It can be tricky, but you know them by their fruits, and there are ways that you can find out. So how is her lifestyle? How is her relationship with God? How does God move in her life? Really sit back and examine how this woman is carrying herself. What are her values? Really pick her brain. What are her thought processes? And also, men of God, don't be overly excited when you see a woman who is just a little bit more intelligent than the normal person, who reads her Bible and prays. That should be the bare minimum. You have to look at all the different fruits. You have to look at her character, her heart posture, and how much does she actually know the word? How much does she actually pray? What are her stories? What are her testimonies? What's her past? What's her future looking like, in her opinion? Really examine her life and the fruits of her life, and don't get overly excited. Really pick her brain about what her values are, what she thinks about life, what she thinks about God. Really find out her innermost thoughts, because the more you dig, the more it can expose a lot of different things. Don't jump too quickly into things. Figure out who she really is first, because anybody can claim anything nowadays. So be very vigilant and look into these things. So I hope this video was helpful for you. Now I'll jump into the verses for you. I'll put them up on the screen. Proverbs 31:30. Favor is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman that fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Proverbs 31:10-12. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. The heart of her husband safely trusts her, so he will have no lack of gain. She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. Proverbs 18:22. He who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. Proverbs 19:14. House and riches are the inheritance of fathers, and a prudent wife is from the Lord. Proverbs 31:26. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and on her tongue is the law of kindness. Proverbs 31:25. Strength and honor are her clothing. She shall rejoice in time to come. BSB version says, strength and honor are her clothing, and she can laugh at the days to come. The NIV version says, she is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. Proverbs 31:24. She makes fine linen garments and sells them, and supplies sashes to the merchants. Proverbs 31:17. She girds herself with strength and strengthens her arms. The Amplified version says, she equips herself with strength, spiritual, mental, and physical fitness for her God-given task, and makes her arms strong. 1 Timothy chapter 2 verses 9 and 10. In like manner also, that the women adorn themselves in modest apparel with propriety and moderation, not with braided hair, or gold, or pearls, or costly clothing, but which is proper for women professing godliness with good works. Titus chapter 2 verses 3-5. The older women likewise, that they be reverent in behavior, not slanderers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things, that they admonish the young women to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste, homemakers, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of God may not be blasphemed. 1 Peter chapter 4 verse 12. Let no one despise your youth, but be an example to the believers in word, in conduct, in love, in spirit, in faith, in purity. John chapter 4 verse 24. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth. Proverbs chapter 2 verse 6. For the Lord gives wisdom, from his mouth come knowledge and understanding. Proverbs chapter 2 verse 7. He stores up sound wisdom for the upright. He is a shield to those who walk uprightly. Proverbs chapter 2 verse 8. He guards the paths of justice, and he preserves the way of his saints or believers. 2 Peter chapter 1 verses 5-8. But also for this very reason, giving all diligence, add to your faith virtue, to virtue knowledge, to knowledge self-control, to self-control perseverance, to perseverance godliness, to godliness brotherly kindness, and to brotherly kindness love. For if these things are yours and abound, you will neither be barren or unfruitful in the knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 22. Flee also youthful lusts or passions, but pursue righteousness, faith, love, peace with those who call on the Lord out of a pure heart. James chapter 4 verse 6. But he gives more grace. Therefore he says, God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. James chapter 4 verse 10. Humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord, and he will lift you up. Philippians chapter 1 verses 9-11. And this I pray, that your love may abound still more and more in the knowledge and all discernment, that you may approve the things that are excellent, that you may be sincere and without offense till the day of Christ, being filled with the fruits of righteousness which are by Jesus Christ to the glory and praise of God. Colossians chapter 1 verses 9 to 10. For this reason we also, since the day we heard it, do not cease to pray for you and to ask that you may be filled with the knowledge of his will in all wisdom and spiritual understanding, that you may walk worthy of the Lord, fully pleasing him, being fruitful in every good work and increasing in the knowledge of God. 1 Corinthians chapter 7 verses 32 to 34. But I want you to be without care. He who is married cares for the things of the Lord, how he may please the Lord. But he who is married cares about the things of the world, how he may please his wife. There is a difference between a wife and a virgin. The unmarried woman cares about the things of the Lord, that she may be holy both in body and in spirit. But she who is married cares about the things of the world, how she may please her husband. 1 Corinthians chapter 7 verses 1 and 2. Now concerning the things of which you wrote to me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. Nevertheless, because of sexual immorality, let each man have his own wife, and let each woman have her own husband. 1 Corinthians chapter 7 verse 3. Let the husband render to his wife the affection due her, and likewise also the wife to her husband. 1 Peter chapter 3 verse 7. In the same way, you husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way, with great gentleness and tact, and with an intelligent regard for the marriage relationship, as with someone physically weaker, since she is a woman. Show her honor and respect as a fellow heir of the grace of life, so that your prayers will not be hindered or ineffective. Colossians chapter 3 verses 5 to 11. Therefore put to death your members which are on the earth, fornication, uncleanness, passion, evil desire, and covetousness, which is idolatry. Because of these things the wrath of God is coming upon the sons of disobedience, in which you yourselves once walked when you lived in them. But now you yourselves are to put off all these: anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy language out of your mouth. Do not lie to one another, since you have put off the old man with his deeds, and have put on the new man, who is renewed in knowledge according to the image of him who created him, where there is neither Greek nor Jew, circumcised nor uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave nor free, but Christ is all and in all. Ephesians chapter 5 verse 3. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not even be named among you, as is fitting for saints. Galatians chapter 5 verse 16. I say then, walk in the Spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. Galatians chapter 5 verses 17 to 21. For the flesh lusts against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh, and these are contrary to one another, so that you do not do the things that you wish. But if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the law. Now the works of the flesh are evident, which are adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lewdness, idolatry, sorcery, hatred, contentions, jealousies, outbursts of wrath, selfish ambitions, dissensions, heresies, envy, murders, drunkenness, revelries, and the like, of which I tell you beforehand, just as I also told you in the time past, that those who practice such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 verses 7 and 8. For God did not call us to uncleanness, but in holiness. Therefore, he who rejects this does not reject man, but God, who has also given us his Holy Spirit. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 verses 11 and 12. That you also aspire to lead a quiet life, to mind your own business, and to work with your own hands, as we commanded you, that you may walk properly towards those who are outside, and that you may lack nothing. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience or long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such there is no law. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe. It all means so much to me. God bless you all, and I'll see you in the next video.